Have you ever dealt with someone so cocky and egoistic they make you sick? They throw shade at you. They talk you down. What if, instead of arguing, you could make them question their own confidence completely, using nothing but a secret psychological tool that makes them regret it instantly, without you ever needing to raise your voice? Here's the thing. When you argue with an arrogant person, you're playing their game. Think about this. They thrive on conflict. The louder you push back, the stronger they feel. Arrogance isn't just a personality trait, it's a power play. They want you to engage because it gives them control. The moment you react, you're handing them exactly what they want. Validation. Picture this. You're in a meeting and a co-worker shoots down your idea with a smug grin. You defend yourself, pointing out flaws in their logic. But instead of backing down, they double down, twisting your words to make you look foolish. Now everyone's watching. And the more you try to prove yourself, the worse it gets. That's how these situations typically play out. Research shows that ego-driven individuals interpret opposition as proof of their dominance. When you push back, they don't see it as a challenge. They see it as confirmation that they're winning. Take politics, for example. Ever notice how some leaders barely react to criticism? That's because they understand the game. The angrier their opponents get, the calmer they appear, and the more their supporters admire them. It's the same in everyday life. The arrogant person isn't looking for a fair debate. They're looking for a reaction, anything to prove they're in charge. Every time you argue, you're fueling their sense of superiority instead of undermining it. The problem gets worse because arrogance distorts reality. Their confidence tricks others into thinking they must be right, even when they're wrong. Studies confirm that people often mistake arrogance for competence. The louder someone talks, the more convincing they seem, at least in the moment. That's why straight-up arguing rarely works. You might have facts on your side, but they have psychological momentum. So what do you do when arguing makes it worse? The key is to stop engaging on their terms. Instead of meeting their energy, you redirect it. Instead of countering their attacks, you reflect them. This shifts the power dynamic entirely. Suddenly, they're not dealing with an opponent, they're dealing with a mirror, and that discomfort is what makes them second-guess themselves. This leads us to Robert Greene's Law 44, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. The principle is simple but powerful. Give people back their own behavior in a way that catches them off guard. It's not about mimicking them like a parrot. It's about subtly reflecting their worst traits, so they see themselves clearly for once. That's how you break their ego without saying a word. Imagine walking into any conversation, knowing you can disarm arrogance without saying a word. That's the mirror effect, Law 44 from Greene's 48 Laws of Power. It's not about loud comebacks or clever insults. It's about using their own behavior against them, so subtly they don't even realize it's happening. Here's how it works. When you mirror someone, you reflect their tone, body language, or speech patterns back at them. This creates a psychological disconnect that throws them off balance. They expect resistance, but instead they get a reflection of themselves, and that's far more unsettling. Most people miss this tactic because it feels counterintuitive. We're taught to stand our ground and to defend ourselves when attacked, but fighting fire with fire just makes the blaze bigger. Greene calls the mirror the perfect tool for deception because it doesn't confront, it confuses. Think of it like holding up a mirror to someone mid-tantrum. Suddenly they see how ridiculous they look, and that realization hits harder than any argument ever could. The goal isn't to mimic them exactly, it's to highlight their behavior in a way that makes them question it. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies show we're wired to trust people who subtly mimic us. When someone mirrors our gestures or speech, even slightly, our brains register it as familiarity. But there's a twist. If the mirroring is too obvious, it backfires. People sense manipulation and shut down. The sweet spot is around 70 to 80% matching, just enough to create discomfort, without triggering defensiveness. For example, if someone speaks slowly and arrogantly, you match their pace, but drop your tone slightly. They'll feel the shift, but won't know why. Applying this takes practice. Start by observing their habits. Do they interrupt, speak in condescending tones, use exaggerated gestures, pick one trait and reflect it back selectively. If they lean in aggressively, you lean in just enough to mirror, but with a calm expression. If they use sarcasm, respond with measured versions of their own phrases. The key is to stay neutral. Your tone should carry no emotion, just quiet reflection. This neutralizing effect strips away their advantage, because they can't escalate against someone who won't react. The real power comes from making them confront their own behavior. When you mirror correctly, they start noticing their flaws, not because you pointed them out, but because they see them mirrored in you. It's like catching your reflection in a store window and realizing your shirt is inside out. That moment of self-awareness is where their ego crumbles. They might even backtrack or apologize, not because you forced them, but because you showed them what they really look like. Now let's break down the 4 ways to use this. Each variation works in different situations, but the core principle stays the same. Reflection is more powerful than resistance. Whether you're dealing with a boastful coworker or a condescending relative, the mirror effect gives you control without confrontation. And when you master it, you'll notice something interesting. The more someone tries to dominate you, the weaker they start to seem. Here's the truth. Mirroring isn't just one tactic. It's 4 distinct strategies packed into one. Most people only use the basic version, missing the full power of this psychological tool. The narcissus effect builds trust. The moral effect teaches lessons. The shadow effect gathers intel. And the neutralizing effect confuses opponents. Each one works differently, and choosing the right one depends on what you're trying to achieve. Take the narcissus effect first. This is about reflecting someone's values or desires to create instant rapport. People bond fastest over shared values, and psychology confirms we're wired to trust those who mirror our traits. Historical figures like Alcibiades mastered this. In ancient Greece, he adapted to every culture he encountered, mimicking Spartan discipline when with Spartans, Persian luxury when in Persia. By mirroring each group's values, he gained their trust, without changing his goals. In everyday life, this works the same way. If someone values wit, mirror their humor. If they value directness, match their bluntness. It's not about faking traits. It's about highlighting common ground to lower their guard. Then there's the moral effect, the go-to for dealing with arrogance. Instead of calling someone out, you reflect their behavior back at them. Imagine a coworker who constantly interrupts. Wait for them to speak, then subtly interrupt them the same way they do to you. Don't mock, just mirror. The goal isn't to attack, but to make them notice their own behavior. Research shows people respond better to self-realization than direct criticism. When they see their rudeness reflected, they often correct themselves without a word from you. This works with condescending tones, excessive bragging, or even passive-aggressive comments. Mirror just enough to make them uncomfortable, then watch as they backtrack. The shadow effect is more strategic. It's about discreetly observing and mimicking someone's moves to anticipate their next steps. Think of it like playing chess while watching your opponent's patterns. In business, this might mean noticing a rival's negotiation tactics and using similar phrasing to throw them off. Greene calls this a preeminent device for detectives and spies because it lets you gather intel without being noticed. The key is subtlety. Shadow too closely and they'll catch on. But done right, it gives you the upper hand by revealing their playbook before they use it. Finally, the neutralizing effect is for direct competition. Mimic your opponent's actions so precisely. They can't distinguish your strategy from theirs. If they speed up, you speed up. If they switch tactics, you follow. This creates confusion, nullifying their advantage. In sports, athletes use this to disrupt rivals' rhythm. In arguments, mirroring someone's pacing or tone can make them lose their train of thought. The goal isn't to outplay them. It's to make their usual tactics useless against you. So which effect works best for arrogant people? Start with the moral effect. It's the fastest way to make them confront their behavior without a fight. But the real power comes from combining these tactics. Use the narcissus effect to disarm, the shadow effect to predict, and the neutralizing effect to counter. That's how you turn their ego against them. But there's a right and wrong way to do this. Tilt the mirror too far and the reflection breaks. Here's the thing. Mirroring only works when it's invisible. Overdo it and you'll look desperate or manipulative. Robert Greene warns against becoming a mirror monkey, someone who mimics too obviously and loses credibility. The goal isn't to copy someone like a parrot. It's to reflect just enough of their behavior to make them uncomfortable without realizing why. Studies show mirroring works best at 70 to 80% matching. Cross that line, and you trigger defensiveness instead of disarming them. Picture this. You're in a meeting with a co-worker who leans back in their chair, arms crossed, smirking while you speak. If you suddenly mirror their posture, exactly, crossing your arms, tilting your head the same way, they'll notice. And once they do, the tactic backfires. Instead of feeling unsettled, they'll think you're mocking them. The key is subtlety. Maybe you mirror just the arm cross, but keep your expression neutral. Or you match their speaking pace, but drop your tone slightly. These small shifts create doubt without drawing attention. Research confirms that heavy-handed mirroring escalates conflicts. For example, if someone uses sarcasm and you fire back with exaggerated sarcasm, they'll double down. But if you reflect their tone at 70%, just enough to highlight it, they'll often pause. It's like holding up a funhouse mirror, slightly distorted but recognizable. That's what makes them self-conscious. The sweet spot lies in selective mirroring. Start by observing their worst traits. Do they interrupt? Use condescending pauses? Mirror one element at a time. If they talk over people, wait for your moment and gently interrupt them the same way they do to others. Not aggressively, just enough to make them hear their own behavior. The aim isn't to beat them at their game, it's to show them their own reflection so clearly they can't ignore it. Timing matters too. Greene emphasizes using the mirror effect at critical moments, like when someone's trying to provoke you. If they throw a jab, don't react immediately. Pause. Then mirror their phrasing or energy level in your response. That delay throws them off balance. They expect a direct counterattack, not a reflection. One warning. Mirroring isn't for every situation. If someone's genuinely angry or hurt, this technique can backfire. It works best against arrogance, not emotion. And never mirror dangerous or unethical behavior. That just drags you down to their level. The real art lies in making them question themselves without ever admitting you did it. That's how you break an ego, without a fight. Now let's talk about when not to use this. Here's the last point. This isn't about manipulation. It's about balancing power. When someone tries to dominate you, the mirror effect gives you control without confrontation. It's not about winning, it's about stopping them from winning unfairly. Try this with one arrogant person this week. Pick one habit, their tone, interruptions, or condescending pauses, and mirror it subtly. Watch how they react when faced with their own behavior. The goal isn't to embarrass them, it's to make them aware of what they're doing. So ask yourself, who in your life needs to see their own reflection? Start there. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another breakdown of human behavior, power, and psychology. Let me know in the comments, who are you going to mirror first? I'll see you in the next video. Till then, stay sharp.